we last left our band of intrepid adventurers, they had managed to find a patron who was willing to sponsor them for the upcoming competition.
I am Zacharias. You are adventurers. I have a task inside of Undermountain. There is a object.
The group needed to make a name for themselves, though, or they would never be accepted, even with a sponsor. Fortunately, Zacharias had an answer for that too. Their first task is to investigate the site of a meteorite impact to see if anything of interest fell and if anyone of interest had yet laid claim to the site.
Those emails, it's like they have some sort of backlighting caused by a device, an arcane device.
If you lay the paper down on the outside of the bag itself will actually glow, and it will backlight the message for you to read it in the dark. It's only very faint glow, like Kindling.
We established the bag as a Kindle.
So, from Waterdeep, you need to travel along the North Furrow Road, which roughly follows the Desserin River. Golden Fields is the verdant jewel of the north, a place where the followers of the Goddess of Grains regularly sends out massive shipments. If you have eaten something fresh, it was probably from Golden Fields. As you reach your destination, the day begins to wane, and once you catch a glimpse of the line of impact between several hills, the sun finally sets completely behind the Sword Mountains.
Well, we're almost there. There's no point making camp and waiting till morning.
Angela and Bethaniel, you see a faint wooden object sticking out of the ground. Unless you get much closer, it is hard to make out what words on it. Bethaniel, however, you can read that it says, "Our Mine." Our has been misspelled as H-O-U-R. Ara and Natalia notice something to the northwest. You can see just the faintest glow in the underbrush.
Bethanel,
See something?
look off into the northwestish. Do you see that glow under the brush there?
Once it's been pointed out to you, Bethaniel, you can most definitely see faint, glowing purple and blue hues coming from the underbrush there.
Shall we check it out? Are meteors blue and gold and purple?
I don't know.
You brush aside a few of the leaves, and you find a softly glowing blue mushroom with a few small specks of black sticking out of it. The black bits shine like they're metallic, or perhaps some kind of stone like obsidian. Looking past that first mushroom, you see several dozen more. You are able to identify the kind of mushroom this is. It is most definitely poisonous. It's not supposed to glow like this. A deep, low rumble, like someone rolling a large boulder into place, or a massive frog groans through the woods before you. Suddenly, and without any warning at all, a large, thick, pink tendril flies out of the woods and slams directly into Natalia's torso. There's a wet slap as they connect, and you hear the massive groaning croak again as a large piece of the underbrush rises up to greet you. With several mushrooms specking its back, the giant toad blinks at its most recent food source.
As the giant toad reveals itself, lashing its tongue around Natalia's body and grappling her with the intent to make her its next meal, Ara yelps and calls upon Hecate's power to blast it with a pillar of radiant light. Seeing that the toad is undeterred, Angela leaps forward, throwing caution to the wind. Taking her longsword in two hands, she slices at the tongue and takes a chunk out of it. Despite its injury, it is only after Natalia draws her weapon and strikes the beast directly that it lets her go, allowing the girl to scramble away out of the underbrush. Resisting the offensive magics that Bethaniel brings to bear, the toad bites down on Angela, but she blocks it with her shield, wedging its mouth open. Now bloodied, the oversized toad doesn't take its injuries lightly and leaps away into the underbrush as it takes another strike from Angela's blade for its efforts. Though the creature seems intent on escaping, Natalia has no mercy in her for those who dare to attack her. Moving forward, she drops her sword, raises her crossbow, and despite the ill-lit conditions and barriers between them, buries a crossbow bolt by the toad's back, ending its life. And as the toad's body falls, all is quiet once again, except for the staggered panting of those who were involved in their first official battle as a party.
So just ahead of us there, I believe, is where that meteor might have impacted.
The sign said something about a mine. I'm wondering if there was a mine here first. Is it a mine shaft or is this the impact site? How new does this fence look?
It looks very new, actually.
Uh-huh.
What the fuck was that?
You
I
mean
definitely
the
heard
forest
something.
Critters?
That wasn't a forest critter. That sounded like a goblin or something.
I clearly heard something like a
Yeah, and then something go... And that's what I'm rolling perception on.
A soft and chortling gurgle comes from the bushes directly next to you, Bethaniel, and you see that one of the leaves, or at least you had thought it was one of the leaves, stretches out, and a small green hand takes hold of the grass and dirt at your feet and begins to pull itself out of the underbrush.
It's a fucking goblin. Fucking goblin.
The creature that emerges from the underbrush is one that any seasoned adventurer would know from a mile away. It is most definitely a goblin.
Fucking kill that motherfucker!
However, the creature crawls, and it is when two long tendrils slither off of its back and pull it forward that you recognize there is something very wrong. The creature's legs have been fused together, and its arms meld into its torso, twisting at the wrist in order to pull itself inch by inch across the ground. Its skull is split vertically from forehead to chin and much more widely across the mouth. And as the cold black eyes of the goblin look up at Bethaniel, you can see a plea for release in them. The top of its skull splits open, revealing a row of sharp teeth and 4 flailing tentacle-like appendages.
Oh gosh.
It does not seem to be undead, as there are no signs of rotting, but whatever has happened to twist this creature, even a goblin, most often seen as the most simple and evil of the races, did not deserve this fate. The tentacles pull it toward you, and the top of the creature's skull snaps like an octopus's mouth.
Kill
Kill it!
Okay, I'll use Toll the Dead on this thing.
You hold up your holy symbol, and a loud bwong fills the air. The creature seems particularly shook by the ringing of the bell, and its body quivers as life force seeps out of it.
I attack, I guess one-handed, so I can use my shield.
You cleave into the goblin's body, splitting open its side, and instead of the normal green blood, a black ichor floods from its body, with smaller worm-like creatures twisting inside of it.
Well, what's that? They're by the fence?
As Angela moves around and moves by the fence, 3 of the fence posts sway and shimmer and take on a purplish appearance. Tendrils split the wood, and strange roots flood out of their bottom, and they pull themselves free of the fence and begin lumbering slowly toward the party.
We didn't kill this mutated goblin yet.
No.
Oh boy.
The first one flops onto its side and begins rolling at a quite accelerated rate in Angie's direction. The tendrils off the side of the purple wood pushing at the ground in order to accelerate it. The second one reaches up and grasps the nearby fence and pulls itself across the top, walking along the surface of it. And Natalia.
Unfortunately, I can't dash over to help out Angie and Bethaniel. So I'm gonna cry. All right. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and swing on this creepy motherfucker.
When you first started learning how to use a sword, they had you fight wooden posts. This feels eerily familiar for just a fraction of a second as your weapon thuds into the wood, but it's the strange giving of the wooden outer shell and sinking into the fleshy inner part of the fence post that is unnerving. And the fact that the wood bleeds and screeches when you pull your sword free.
The desperately grasping tendrils of the goblin creature continue to grapple with Bethaniel's shield as he calls out to his goddess once more, the short prayer only making it shiver as it mostly resists his magics. Thankfully, though, even as the beak-like mouth within the creature's head bites at his shield, it cannot break through, just chipping away at the hardened wood. Not wanting enemies at her back, Angela calls for the group to step away from the posts, hoping to form a defensive line as she delivers a glancing blow to the tentacled beast. Too soon, though, the post rolls close enough to lash out with its tendrils, and Ara is stuck on the front lines. As it spins in, so too do the two adventurers, and though Angela blocks the blows with her shield, she can see the darkening of the wood, and can feel her arm weaken from the necrotic touch. Ara moves too slowly to get away from the tentacle that spears toward her, though, and a blow to the side makes her cry out, her knees buckling as the flesh beneath begins to necrotize from the blow, her armor even becoming discolored and rusting swiftly from the creature's touch. The post that is atop the fence springs forward to a readied Natalia, who brings her blade to bear against it. Though her swing is steady as she dips between the tentacles to deal a blow to the creature, one strikes her arm, causing her to falter, her body withering from the necrotic energy and her strength fading enough that her attack misses its mark. What should have been a devastating blow instead just carves a chunk of spongy wood from the post, making the creature tremble dangerously as a second post flips into range and strikes her across the back. Still, she holds her ground, teeth gritted in determination not to fall. Bethaniel continues holding the green monstrosity back as Ara disengages past him, intent on nursing her wounds, and Bethaniel's eyes flare as he calls to his goddess to release the beast from its torment. His call is answered. The stars on his holy symbol flash in the night, and the tentacled beast slides off Bethaniel's shield. Drizzling into the grass, its skin crackles and chars, the split face gurgling a broken thanks to the elf before its features collapse into charcoal. Seeing the goblin fall, Angela takes the opportunity to push in, threatening both of the wobbling posts and hoping that her defensive fighting style will spare her from the worst of these tendrils. Striking out from behind her bulwark, she puts a slash into the side of one, nearly severing it, and does her best to distract the swaying tentacled fungi. With the post that was atop the fence bounding off of it, the remaining three members of the front line are now surrounded, but back to back to back they dig in. The spray of tentacles from the creatures strike armor, shields, and are parried by weapons, and in this dance only one glancing blow strikes the remaining cleric's forearm. Quickly pulling his withered hand away from the creature's grasp, young Bethaniel finds the wounds are not deep, his brilliant soul pushing back against the necrotic energies. Pushing on to the offense, Natalia cleaves into the post flanking them and sends one of its tendrils spiraling off into the dirt, and before it can recover, a cry cuts the air and a pillar of light descends, searing the post as Ara's aura flares. Falling into the dirt, the smoldering ruin deflates with a spongy wheeze, and with a quick nod, Natalia returns to the fray. A tendril lashes out at Angela's unarmored leg, but a swift kick knocks the blow aside. Seeing an advantage, Angela and Bethaniel bring sword and spell to bear against it, but the sound of doom does little to the post, and Angela's blade glances off its woody surface as it twists. As 3 tentacles from another post spear toward them, Natalia leaps between her allies, a wide swing cleaving 2 tentacles completely off and causing the violet post to squelch with its wounds. Readying its remaining limbs for another assault, the post is interrupted by the beam of sacred flames descending upon it, and though it rolls to the side, Angela dashes through the fading flames, impaling the creature on her blade and driving it into the ground with a huff as she watches it deflate. Turning to her allies, she sees the fungal post grasping the blade of Natalia's sword, but the blade is just one part of her weapon, and Natalia drives the pommel into it, battering it to the ground as Bethaniel calls out and withers their last foe with his spell. Panting, the trio look to their red-headed companion as she approaches and pulls out her healing kit, pausing for just a moment to cast a spell upon herself that she might reverse the earlier necrosis and heal her wounds. Their foes defeated, they can now approach the nearby pit and see what manner of horror fell here that might have caused such wanton mutations.
Personally, if I may have an opinion, I would advise using spells, getting what we came here for, and getting the heck out of here, because I don't fancy the idea of staying here for an extended period of time. Whatever this meteor did to the goblins that tried to mine on it, and to the fence post, I don't like the idea of it doing that to us if we stay near it for too long.
Natalia, as you step across the fence and look into the edge of the pit, you could swear you hear the sound of stone grinding or shifting every so often, but it's so far down you can't see the bottom. Something is moving in that pit. Perhaps they are just severely wounded. There is quite a bit of blood, but people have survived worse.
As the bodies enter the half-light of the torch, or for Bethaniel exit the gray darkness and slide into color, the shifting of the body becomes more pronounced. Unlike the still corpse next to him, this man seems to have life yet left inside, though the blood staining the grass and dirt darkly around him tells them he cannot have long. The group's steps quicken, and as they approach, the writhing seems to redouble, as if the man is taking his last breaths just as the party approaches. They notice something that stops them short instead of hurrying them more, though. Despite the body's convulsions, there is no sound of breathing, no ragged gasps, no retching, just the sound of the body writhing on the ground as the forest falls silent, a pregnant pause as if something terrible is about to happen. Warning, slight body horror ahead.
The creature's torso twitches and jerks, and then bulges at several odd angles as if its bones are attempting to rip free of its skin. And in a visceral display, the corpse of the once man splits open, and several tendril-like creatures whip and writhe around on the ground. It only takes a second for you to recognize what you're looking at.
The segmented body of the creatures that emerge with their many legs and clacking mandibles are easy enough to identify. They are centipedes, gigantic ones in fact, but the sheen and color of their skin implies something else as they emerge in this visceral display. These creatures did not dig into the man's body. They are his entrails, animated and hungry. And so the horrified party prepares for battle. Thank you for watching the second episode of The Best Available. There's been a lot of changes behind the scenes, so I wanted to take a moment to give you a peek behind the curtain, if you will. As you hopefully noticed, we've leveled up a lot when it comes to our editing.
He says.
And that is all thanks to bringing on our buddy MC Cheshire. A skilled editor with a channel of his own, he's been a great addition to the team. I can't begin to explain how happy it makes me to watch our creative team with all the tools they need to make wonderful things for you all to watch. It brings tears to my eyes sometimes, but I'm a softie like that, I guess. I know those of you that love the series and characters, hopefully all of you, have been suffering while waiting for the next video, but that's about to come to an end. Chesh works at an almost blinding speed and is already combing through our massive library of content, much to his everlasting chagrin. I can't guarantee an upload schedule yet, as we're still getting into the rhythm of production, but rest assured, uploads will be coming much more rapidly than before we had a proper editor. You had to deal with me before, and for that, I apologize. That being said, we did have a hiccup that cost us a week, because of course, the second we brought in an editor, he got hit by a hurricane. Thankfully, he evacuated safely and lost nothing but time, which is a small sacrifice when so many had it so much worse, and our hearts go out to them as they rebuild. Anyway, that's enough of my yammering. I hope you're all loving the changes in this episode and that it helps to better portray the intensity and awesomeness of our table. If you want to join us in watching the games live, and maybe if there's an opening, take a seat at our virtual tabletop yourself, then head on over to our Buy Me a Coffee or our brand new Patreon page. As before, all of our content will be available for free, but you can get early access and work in progress shots beforehand by being a supporter, and get into our Discord, which is where we run the games, and you can watch and interact with the players and me, the Forever DM. We really do appreciate it because, hey, we have to get our ramen and cereal somewhere. You can follow Doodle Poodles or my own link to our Twitters as well for updates, and if you're into gaming and you want to see more of MC Cheshire's mad editing skills, and trust me, they are mad, you can pop over to his YouTube channel, link in the description. And now, a shout out to all of our amazing supporters. In our power tier, we have Krian, Scorpius187, Doodle Poodle, and Jay Jones. Planers, we have Darth Vader, CJ, Someone, All Is Fiction, Silent Angel, and PPNTT807. Adventurers, we have Alex, Justin Wagner, Justin, Breezebender, Mystics, Katie, Andrew Akiyama, Shadowmancer, and Justin. Quest Givers, we have Slathar Silcom, Robert Mischief, John R300, and V. Townsfolk, we have Night Archer, Scott Stedman, and Shugenja. As our supporters, we have Foxcrest Distribution, Mystics, War Machine, Nat, and The Shadow Wolf. Sound and music, we have from Travis Savoy, Pixabay, Spooky Modem, Sergey Quadrado, Dan 2008, Sean Emporio, Bloodborne, Baldur's Gate 3, Ocarina of Time, and of course MC Cheshire's Marvelous Mouth. Adventure assets come from Shipiku, Jesper Siren, Stephen Yeardley, Jonathan Eli, and Claire Strickland. Our creative team, Doodle Poodle, Nala Fontaine, Shadow Wolf, Scorpius187, MC Cheshire, and me, the Forever DM.